All right. Welcome back to the live show. You know what time it is. It is currently 7:34 p.m. And of course, today's date is the 8th of August 2025. How are you doing? We are back for another episode on the Genesis show. It is your boy Genesis. Welcome back. As I always say, this is America. All right. And America is the greatest nation on the face of the earth. God made it so, and God is the greatest. Okay, without God, I will not be here. There would be no show. Okay, none of this would exist for me. Okay, I don't know about you, but for me, none of this would exist. So I got to give uh, all thanks to God and all praises to God. And with that being said, I got to say, if you're tuned in, thank you for tuning in. God bless you for tuning in. Thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for being here. Thank you for loving the United States. Thank you for uh, showing your patriotism to the United States by watching the show. So thank you so much. Today, we will be talking about peace through strength in America. All right. Here in this frame right here, or if you're watching on the other side right here, you can tell that the President of the United States and two other world leaders are in frame right here. And the commander in chief is about to broker a peace deal between both parties. He's about to broker a peace deal between both parties. And this is what we voted for. This is what we voted for. All right, everybody, double tap your screen for a like. Double tap your phone screen if you're watching from your phone to give this live stream a like. All right. Let's see. Yes. I just did. All right. All right. The polls are up. Double tap your phone screen. Welcome to the Genesis show. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Today, we're going to go straight to the show. We're going to check out the OG, the 45th, now the 47th President of the United States. He participated in a trilateral signing with two world leaders. A lot of people said this could not have been possible a couple of years ago. But as we know, this is Trump, right? This is what he does. He has been, in my opinion, called by God to do things like this. Okay. Things that people are saying that it's not possible to get done. Things that people may feel like may never get done is actually coming to fruition in his term. Okay. So, and in my opinion, only God can give you a position of power. That's my opinion. Okay. It might be different for you guys, but for me, I feel like Trump was put in the White House, in the Oval Office, because God wanted him to do something wonderful, something great, something remarkable for Americans and the world this next 3.5 years. He's already settled so many wars around the world. Congo, Rwanda has been settled. Pakistan and India was settled. Now, Armenia and this other country, Azerbaijan, will be settled right now. In this video, you're gonna see uh, the OG speak about what he's been working on concerning both countries and how he's brokered a peace deal with them. Hopefully, he can do it with Russia and Ukraine. Hopefully, he can do it next week when he meets with President Vladimir Putin of Russia. Okay? Hopefully, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed, by God's grace, it will come to pass that Ukraine and Russia will stop the war between themselves and peace would reign. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, sit back, relax, enjoy the show. Be nice in the comment section. It is the Genesis Show. Enjoy.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much. It's a great honor. Thank you. It's a long time, 35 years. They fought, and now they're friends, and they're going to be friends for a long time. But it's a big, beautiful honor to welcome everyone to the White House for this very historic peace summit between Armenia and Azerbaijan. It's really a great thrill for me. I love seeing good people get together, and that's what you have. You have two great leaders. I want to congratulate these two visionary people, Prime Minister Pashinyan and President Aliyev, for coming to Washington to sign this momentous joint declaration. It's a tremendously important document, and it's been a long time in coming. They were explaining before that so many times they thought they could get there. It never happened, just never happened. I also want to thank Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, and their teams at the State Department. And I see that we have Chris Wright outside and Senator Steve Daines sitting right here. Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much. And Steve, thank you very much. And we have some other wonderful dignitaries, including the dignitaries from your country. But they provided tremendous diplomatic assistance. And Marco, congratulations. It's a big thing. Keep going. He got many jobs. And then, of course, you would say Steve was quite influential. I call him Henry Kissinger, who doesn't leak. For more than 35 years, Armenia and Azerbaijan have fought a bitter conflict that resulted in tremendous suffering for both nations. They suffered gravely for so many years. Many tried to find a resolution, including the European Union. The Russians worked very hard on it, never happened. Sleepy Joe Biden tried, but you know what happened there. He tried for probably 12 minutes and didn't work out. And many other countries tried, and they were unsuccessful. But with this accord, we've finally succeeded in making peace, and we just left the Oval Office where we signed voluminous documents and very important elements to the agreement. The country of Armenia and Azerbaijan are committing to stop all fighting forever, open up commerce, travel, and diplomatic relations, and respect each other's sovereignty and territorial integrity, so importantly. And I just spent a lot of time with these two men. I think they're going to have a great relationship. You want to know the truth? They didn't see each other that much, but they probably will. I think they're going to have. I think you two are going to have a great relationship. I have no doubt. And if you don't, call me and I'll straighten it out. Okay. Very importantly, we have also resolved the key issue that foiled previous negotiations. This declaration establishes what they are calling a great honor for me. I didn't ask for this. The Trump route for international peace and prosperity, which is a special transit area that will allow Azerbaijan to get full access to its territory of Nakhchivan while fully respecting Armenia's sovereignty. So they're going to be able to really live and work together and It's amazing. So that's a very important territory, I guess, very special territory to you, and now they work together. Armenia is also creating an exclusive partnership with the United States to develop this corridor, which could extend for up to 99 years. And then they promise in 99 years they'll extend it, right? You'll promise. But we anticipate significant infrastructure development by American companies. They're very anxious to go in to these two countries, and they're going to spend a lot of money, which will economically benefit all three of our nations. This is incredibly positive news for the future of the entire region, and it's a very important region, as you know. Additionally, the U.S. is signing a bilateral agreement with both countries to expand cooperation in energy, trade, and technology, including AI. And in terms of energy, Chris is here representing our country, and there's nobody better than Chris Wright. And Chris, I understand it's very fertile. It's a very fertile area. So I appreciate everything you've done. You've done amazingly well. We've got the gasoline prices coming way down from where they were, and it's really been something to watch. We are drilling like we haven't drilled in many years, I guess I could say ever before, and we just started. We're also lifting restrictions on defense cooperation between Azerbaijan and the United States of America. The president, that's a big deal. Is that important to you? I think so. That was pretty good. They're very happy about that. So am I. As president, my highest aspiration is to bring peace and stability to the world. Today's signing follows our success with India and Pakistan. They were going at it. They were going at it big, and they were great, two great leaders that came together just prior to what would have been a tremendous conflict, as you know, a nuclear conflict probably. Also the Congo and Rwanda. Now, that was one which was going on for 31 years. You have them beat. 35 years you had them beat. But that was going on for 31 years, and we have it all done, and people are very happy. That was a rough one. That was nasty. 7 million people that they know of died. Also, just recently, Thailand and Cambodia, that was one that was just starting. That 2,000 people were dead on the border, but it was just starting. And I was talking to one of the two nations on trade, and I said, I'm not going to sign a trade deal if you guys are going to fight. And I got the other one. And again, great leadership, Thailand and Cambodia. And before it got started, beyond that first couple of days, we stopped the war. And they've had wars periodically, very much as you two have had long-term wars. And we got it stopped. And the two, again, I find in all cases, they're great leaders. If they didn't agree, I would say they're lousy leaders, to be honest with you. But they did agree. And so Thailand and Cambodia, Serbia and Kosovo, we got something stopped that was ready to start. We didn't like that one. We didn't like it at all, and we saved a lot of lives. And numerous others. In addition, as you know, we took out the nuclear capability of Iran. And to use a term that people tried to dispute without any knowledge, it was obliterated. That's been confirmed by the Atomic Energy Commissions, everybody, that's so totally obliterated. They might try again, but they're going to have to try a new site because they are, and I want to just say our military, we have the greatest military in the world. We have the greatest equipment and military manufacturing anywhere in the world, nobody even close. And that sort of proved it. So getting rid of that threat from the Middle East was very big. And I think a lot of people are going to be joining right now the Abraham Accords. It's going to be very important. So hopefully we're going to have many more successes. I hope we're not going to have too many more in this field because hopefully we're not going to be seeing too many more wars. But I came in and this whole world was on fire. All these things were sort of happening. We've only been here for 6 months. The world was on fire. We took care of just about every fire, and we're working on another one that you're reporting on very strongly with Russia, Ukraine, and we'll have some more information for you a little bit later. But I want to ask these two very special people. Again, I've gotten to know them. They're very special people, and I think they have the potential to have a great personal relationship, which is always good, but also a great just relationship. And if I might, may I ask you to say a few words, sir?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. First of all, thank you for invitation. It's a big honor to be invited by the President of the United States for this historic event. Actually, we are writing a new history in a bilateral interstate relationship between the United States and Azerbaijan. We are starting the path towards a strategic partnership. The Charter on Strategic Partnership will be elaborated within several months, and that is a historic achievement for Azerbaijan, because to be in the format of strategic partnership with the greatest country of the world is a great opportunity and also a very big responsibility. And this strategic partnership format embraces so many important areas: mutual investment, trade, energy, connectivity, transit, AI, defense sales, counterterrorism. So all these areas where we had and hopefully will have very active cooperation in the future. So it opens a lot of opportunities for Azerbaijan to continue its path of development, to diversify its economy, to keep unemployment low as it is today, and to look to the future with great optimism. Also, I'm very grateful to Mr. President that he today lifted the restrictions which have been imposed on Azerbaijan back in 1992, just only 1 year after Azerbaijan restored its independence. These restrictions have been imposed on us. So after 33 years, these restrictions have been lifted just today. So really, it's a day which will be remembered by the people of Azerbaijan with a feeling of pride and gratitude to President Trump for his attitude to Azerbaijan, for his vision, for not only for our region. We were exchanging views today, and I said that within several months he managed to put an end to conflicts in Asia, in Africa, and now in Southern Caucasus. What we could not achieve for more than 30 years. We had to sacrifice lives. We had to fight two very bad wars with a lot of casualties. And if not for President Trump and his team, and our great friend, Mr. Vitkov and his team, probably today, Armenia and Azerbaijan would have been again in this endless process of negotiations. So really, it's a historic day. We are today establishing peace in the Caucasus, which will open great opportunities, not only for our region. And as President Trump correctly mentioned, the Trump route for international peace and prosperity, which will create new connectivity lines, which will lift the walls, and which will create connectivity opportunities for so many countries, with investments, with prosperity, with stability. You know, Azerbaijan and Armenia, we became independent at the same time as a result of the collapse of the Soviet Union. But at that time already, we were at war. So we lost a lot of years just being preoccupied with wars and occupation and bloodshed. So today, historic day, also is because we bring peace. President Trump brings peace to Caucasus, and we're grateful for that. And I'm sure that Armenia and Azerbaijan will find courage and responsibility to reconcile, and also the people will reconcile. We will turn the page of standoff, confrontation, and bloodshed, and provide bright and safe future for our children. So I'm very happy because today we're writing the great new history. And once again, Mr. President, thank you for all what you are doing for us, for our region, and for the whole world.
Thank you very much. Great leaders. How long have you been in the leadership position?
22 years.
22 years.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. That means he's tough and smart. And it's an amazing part of the world. Congratulations.
Thank
What
you.
a great honor to be involved.
Thank you very much.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen. Today we have reached a significant milestone in Armenia-Azerbaijani relations. We're laying a foundation to write a better story than the one we had in the past. This breakthrough would be simply not have been possible without President Trump's personal engagement and his resolute commitment to peace in our region. The initiating of peace agreement will pave the way to end the decades of conflict between our countries and open a new era based on the full respect for the sovereignty and territorial integrity of each other. Today's declarations, which President Trump personally will sign as well as witness, gives confidence and assurance that we are opening a chapter of peace, prosperity, security, and economic cooperation in the South Caucasus. In this context, allow me to highlight the agreement on opening transport communications in the region based on the principles of sovereignty, territorial integrity, and jurisdiction. I'm particularly thrilled that together with the US, Armenia will work to bring to life the TRIP, Trump Road for Peace and Prosperity, a connectivity project that will unlock the entire region. TRIP will unlock strategic economic opportunities that will create long-term benefits. It will promote infrastructure investment, enhance regional connectivity, and strengthen U.S. leadership as a champion of conflict resolution. I want to thank President Trump and his team for brokering this game-changing outcome between Armenia and Azerbaijan. This is a great deal we've achieved today. This is a success for our countries and for our region, and a success for the world, because a more peaceful region means a safer world. This is peace through strength in a neutral. Mr. President, today's great achievement is yet another testimony to your global leadership and your legacy as a statesman and a peacemaker on the world stage. Bringing peace required vision, political courage, and determination. But what is most important is that it requires faith in the cause. As it is said in the Holy Bible, blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. May God enlighten this way. Thank you, and my congratulations to all of us, President Aliyev, to you, to all of us, colleagues from Azerbaijan, Armenia, United States, and all the people of our region, all the people of our countries, and my congratulations to the world, because, as I said, it will definitely make world a better place. Thank you.
Thank you.
President of the United States, the President of the Republic of Azerbaijan, and the Prime Minister of the Republic of Armenia will now sign the joint declaration on the outcomes of the Trump Route for International Peace and Prosperity Summit.
That's really
They will
beautiful.
sign 3 copies in English. The President of the United States signs as a witness to the President of the Republic of Azerbaijan and the Prime Minister of the Republic of Armenia, affirming their path to peace, stability, and prosperity. We kindly ask that all guests remain seated for the signing of the documents.
This is what we voted for. Peace through strength. Peace around the world. This is what we all voted for. Changing lives around the world. Absolutely amazing. Russia in Ukraine next. And I'm sure it's going to happen. Well, I'm not sure, but it's most likely going to happen next week when he
That is
meets
so
with
great.
Vladimir Putin.
And we'll hold up, how about holding up that document, all right? Well, thank you. This is really a big day, and we have some other big announcements, but I didn't want to make them because I don't want to do anything that could even in a little way overshadow what's taken place today. 35 years of death and hatred, and now it's going to be love and respect and success together. And I didn't really want to do anything that would in any way overshadow. I don't think it can be overshadowed when you're at war and so many people have suffered and so many people have been killed, and now you're going to have great peace. And I look forward to that corridor, because that corridor sounds, I'm going to have to get over there. I'll bring Senator Daines with me, and we're going to have to get over there, Steve. So, but this is a really great achievement, and I congratulate you. You're two incredible leaders. You're going to go down in history. And I've read the whole thing about how long it took, and you thought you were there and people let you down, and sometimes you probably let people down. Maybe, I don't know how it works, but that's the way it usually does. But this is something that is very, very special. So I don't want to get in the way of it at all, but we'll take a few questions, maybe at least slightly related, but we have some other things to announce later on in the day. Peter, please.
Related, just because you mentioned the elusive peace in Ukraine.
Right.
Who is holding up this Ukraine ceasefire summit? Is it Putin or is it Zelensky?
Well, I think it's, that one is, as you know, we've been working on a lot of these deals. We've closed every single one of them all throughout the world, and that's the last of them. And they're losing, Peter, about 6, maybe even 7,000 soldiers every single week. Russia, as you know, lost almost 25,000 over the last month and a half, and Ukraine lost just a small number fewer. It's a lot of people are dying, and I think we're getting very close. And we're going to be announcing later on. We're going to have a meeting with Russia. We'll start off with Russia, and we'll announce a location. I think the location will be a very popular one for a lot of reasons. But we'll be announcing that a little bit later. I just don't want to do it now because of the importance of what we just did.
And I completely understand.
Yes, please, go ahead.
Follow-up. Are you surprised that Zelensky hasn't figured out by now, in years of war, how to deal with you and to deal with Putin without needing permission to make concessions from his parliament or from a national referendum?
Well, he's going out and getting what he needs. You know, he's not authorized to do certain things. I said, well, you're going to have to get it fast because, you know, we're getting very close to a deal. And he's doing that, and he's working with the European nations, and they're terrific people, terrific leaders, NATO. And as you know, I became very friendly with them. They agreed to go from 2% to 5%, 2% that they didn't pay to 5% that they've already paid. It's trillions of dollars. So, you know, we're working together very closely. But no, in all fairness to President Zelensky, he's getting everything he needs to assuming we get something done. But I'll be meeting very shortly with President Putin. It would have been sooner, but I guess there's security arrangements that unfortunately people have to make. Otherwise, I'd do it much quicker. He would too. He'd like to meet as soon as possible. I agree with it. But we'll be announcing that very shortly, okay? And location. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, with this meeting with Putin, is this Russia's last chance to achieve peace? And do you expect Ukraine to make any type of territorial concession?
Yeah, I don't like using the term last chance. Look, it's, you know, look, this is two very, very smart people. They've been going at it and their predecessors also very smart. They've been going at it for 35 years. It's tough. And, you know, when those guns start going off, it's awfully tough to get them to stop. It really does. It's a war that should have never happened. It would have never happened if I were president. There was no reason for it. So many people are killed, so much cultural destruction. You look at those magnificent towers, the most beautiful in the world. You know, the spires were considered the most beautiful in the world. They're all They're all in a million pieces, laying on the ground, all obliterated, knocked into a million pieces. So sad. But millions of people have died, and very, very much set in their ways. A lot of people were set in their ways, but I think we're getting close. I mean, this was not my war. This was Biden's war. But the European Union has been great. As you know, they're purchasing equipment from us. They have a lot of money, and they're spending a lot of money on buying equipment. We're not spending money, but we are supplying them equipment. They're paying for it. And I think that a lot of things happened recently that would make this go forward. I'm not going to mention anything having to do with India, but maybe that had an impact. But what really had an impact was NATO has stepped up in terms of their spending on buying military equipment. You know, we're in for, probably through Biden and his people, $350 billion. $350 billion. When they hear these numbers, you're saying that's a lot of money. $350 billion the United States has spent on that. It should have spent nothing because it should have never happened. It would have never happened. And Europe is in for over $100 billion, which is, it should be the opposite. If we were in for anything, but it should be the opposite. And I will say that Europe wants to see peace. The European leaders want to see peace. President Putin, I believe, wants to see peace, and Zelensky wants to see peace. Now, President Zelensky has to get all of his everything he needs, because he's going to have to get ready to sign something, and I think he is working hard to get that done. Well, you're looking at territory that's been fought over for 3.5 years with, a lot of Russians have died, a lot of Ukrainians have died. So we're looking at that, but we're actually looking to get some back and some swapping. It's complicated. It's actually nothing easy. It's very complicated, but we're going to get some back. We're going to get some switched. There'll be some swapping of territories to the betterment of both. And but we'll be talking about that either later or tomorrow or whatever. Yeah, please. Say it.
If I could ask a question of your guests and also of you.
Yeah.
Of the guests, will the Armenians from Nagorno-Karabakh be allowed to return? And also, do you have any thoughts on the talk about President Trump winning the Nobel Peace Prize? And for President Trump, you're working on resolving 2 other major conflicts. In Gaza, you've spoke of resettling the Gazans. The country of Somaliland has expressed potential interest if you were to diplomatically recognize their independence. Are you inclined to do so? And also, did President Putin present an award to Mr. Witkoff during their recent visit?
He likes Mr. Witkoff, I can tell you that. That's true. Please, go ahead.
I think President Trump deserved to have a Nobel Peace Prize, and we will defend that, and we will promote for that, and that's obvious. So, and today's event, I think, is a very bright expression of that, and hopefully you will invite us to
front row. You'll be front row.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We are in favor.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I have a suggestion?
Yes.
So maybe we agree with Prime Minister Pashinyan to send a joint appeal to Nobel Committee to award President Trump with the Nobel Peace Prize, because from the leaders of the countries which were at war for more than 3 decades, having this historic signature here, it really means a lot. This is tangible result of President Trump's leadership, and no one could have achieved that. There have been many presidents here since beginning of 90s, and the so-called Minsk process, which, by the way, today we put an end to with my Armenian colleague, started in 1992. So negotiation under the auspices of OSCE continued for more than 3 decades without any result. So who, if not President Trump, deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. I don't want to go into the history of some very strange decisions of the Nobel Peace Committee to award the prize for someone who didn't do anything at all. But President Trump, in 6 months, did miracle. So I think that my Armenian colleague will support it, and judging by the reaction of the audience, I think as soon as we come back, we will agree to issue a joint letter, and hopefully, and I also join when President is awarded, we hope that he will invite us to the ceremony.
You certainly will be. Thank you very much.
Do we have draft to sign now?
Well, we'll see what happens.
We already
It's
like
early.
to sign.
Thank you very much. It's very nice. We're looking into that right now. Good question, actually, and another complex one, as you know, but we're working on that right now. Somaliland.
Mr. President, thank you so much. I wanted to ask you, have you spoken to Russian President Putin yet? And would you go to Russia or Ukraine? And what exactly would you say
We'll
to him?
be announcing a location in maybe a little while, and I think you'll be very happy. We'll see what happens, right? All we can do is do our best. We've been working on this one for a long time. This is a very complicated one also. This was extremely complicated, but we made it less complicated, and we had two very brilliant people on my right and my left. They understood what was at stake. I think if it didn't get done now, it might have never gotten done. So this is the same, very similar with Ukraine. It became more and more complicated as time went on. It was simple at the beginning. It wasn't going to happen. But it became more and more complicated. But I think we're getting close. Yes, ma'am. Yes, go ahead, please.
Could the location for the summit be Italy?
Location,
Oh.
Italy.
I will give it to you very soon. Honestly, I don't want to do anything. These guys, I don't want to do anything where that's like, because this is a bigger story than a location. A location's good. I'm a real estate person. I know about a location. But there's nothing to compete with this in terms of what we're doing today. It's just such a great achievement for these two. Really, they'll go down as great leaders for what they did. I put them together, but what they have been able, and I don't want to do anything. So we'll talk about it later. Today, we'll give you a location today.
Cartels, too. You were talking about sending military forces to fight against the drug cartels in Latin America. Do you think it's worth sending our forces, our U.S. forces there to take this on?
Cartels where?
Central Latin America.
Well, Latin America's got a lot of cartels. They've got a lot of drugs flowing. So, we want to protect our country. We have to protect our country. We haven't been doing it for 4 years. And we love this country like they love their countries. We have to protect our country. So, we're playing a tough game, but we'll have more to say about that soon. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. President, I'm Musala from Azerbaijan News Agency Report. So we are grateful to be here. Today you host a truly historic meeting. As a person who values diplomacy and global interaction, do you consider the possibility to visiting Azerbaijan? Actually, you mentioned Azerbaijan and Armenia after this meeting.
Well,
To visit our countries, do you consider to visit? Wow.
which one do I consider better?
Both, yes.
Both. Oh, I think if I ever said that you would say, this guy couldn't have solved the problem. You know what? I consider them both great, okay? And you know what? They're going to be even greater. But and they're very different in many ways, but they have a lot in common. But they're both great as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, please. It's an interesting question, right? That would have been a hell of an answer if I said, well, I think I like this one or that one. No, we don't do that. Go ahead, please.
Mr. President, first of all, thank you for bringing peace to South Caucasus, something that no one has been able to achieve in 35 years.
Thank you.
That's number one. We also noticed that you think highly of the commitments that the sides have taken on and assumed. However, considering the long history of conflict and the fact that this is not a legally binding document, will there be consequences if at some point one of the sides takes a step back?
I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's going to be very good. And I told them, I gave them a personal commitment. If there's, there's always little problems here and there, right? The big ones have been solved. The giant ones have been solved. But if there's conflict, they both know they're going to call me, and we're going to get it straightened out. They're not going to have a problem. Where are you from?
Armenia.
Okay, good, very good. I was wondering, it was a very unusual question. But it's not unusual considering you're from Armenia. If there's a problem, we will get it worked out. I told them both, don't let the problem last. We get it early, and we'll get it solved. Good reporter you have over there. Okay.
Can I
Yes,
add?
please.
Can I add? Yeah. First of all, I'd like to say that today we initialed the peace deal, which was in the process of negotiations for quite a while. The fact that it is initialed here, in the capital #1 of the world, in the office #1 of the world, and in front of the great President of the United States, means that there should be no doubts and no suspicions that any of the sides would step back. If any of us, Prime Minister Pashinyan or myself, had in mind to step back, we wouldn't have come here. So you can be absolutely sure, as well as Azerbaijani community, that what has happened today will result in peace, long-lasting peace, eternal peace in the Caucasus.
That's a very nice statement.
I'm sorry. Fully agree and nothing to add.
That's a very nice two statements, and that's a beautifully stated statement. Let's go. A couple of more. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, many in the South Caucasus have pinned the blame on your predecessor, Joe Biden, and his Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, for obstacles in America's bilateral relations with Azerbaijan and peace in that part of the world. How important is it to you to elevate your country's partnership and your administration's partnership with Azerbaijan, with Armenia, and how important is this for your legacy?
Well, to me, it's very important, but it's, I know the history of what was going on because I do a lot of reading, and they've been at a vicious, they've had a very contentious relationship for a long time. It's war. Most of the time was war. And so to get it done, they're great people. I know a lot of people from Armenia. I know a lot of people from both countries, and they're incredible people, and it shouldn't happen what has happened. I wish we could have been here sooner, if the election were different. I'm going to be nice today. I'm not going to be controversial and say the election was rigged. I would have had this thing solved 4 years sooner. But the truth is that's right. If the election weren't rigged, I would have been here 4 years sooner. We would have signed the same agreement 4 years sooner. But it didn't happen, and the Biden administration did really very little, actually nothing, to get it done. But they did nothing to get really anything done. It was this country was in very serious shape. And I say it over and over again. I met all the leaders of NATO. I went, as you know, to the Middle East. I was with the King of Saudi Arabia, the leaders of great countries, right? Qatar and UAE and others in the Middle East. And everyone essentially said the same thing. We had a dead country 1 year ago. We had a dead country. Our country was dying. And now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. It's not even close. We have the hottest country in the world. And it's an honor to use that, if you call it power or respect or whatever it is, to settle wars like we have right here to my left and my right. And these two guys are very smart. I got to know them, and they're very smart. They're not going to. I don't think they're going to ever have to bother with me. They may call me just to bug me a little bit. Let me put them to a test, and they'll call because they like to call me. But they're not going to have any problem. We have a very comprehensive agreement. It's a peace agreement. And this isn't ceasefire. This isn't we'll hold off. This is a peace agreement. And they're going to end up doing a lot of business with each other. They're going to do a lot of business with the United States. And I'm going to always remember, at least during the time that I'm here, I'm going to remember how smart they were, how good they were. And when it comes to trade and other things, we're going to always go 100% out. We'll go out of our way to make sure it comes out good for them. They did an amazingly good thing and a very brave thing. It's a very complicated part of the world they come from, very tough part of the world. It's a tough, but smart part of the world, smart, tough people, and great wealth, great energy wealth. I was talking to Chris, and you were saying in terms of wealth, it's enormous wealth. But wealth doesn't often solve problems. takes other things. But they're amazing, two amazing leaders, and it's an honor to be associated with them. How about we'll do one more, please?
Thank you, Mr. President. Your gut instincts have always done well in terms of business and in terms of politics. What does your gut tell you as it relates to the possibility of an event like this in the next few weeks, the next few months, in which you have President Putin on one side and President Zelensky on your other side?
I think my instinct really tells me that we have a shot at it, okay? And you'll find that out later on, and maybe even today, but we have a shot at it. Look, it's got to be solved. You know, we're not losing people. A lot of people say, why are you bothering? We're not losing people. We were spending hundreds of billions of dollars. Now we're spending nothing. We're spending no money. I guess we're making money because, you know, we have the best military equipment in the world. We're selling it to NATO. But you're losing thousands of people a week, Russians and Ukrainians mostly soldiers, but, you know, missiles are lobbed into cities and towns, Kiev, lots of places. You've been reading the same stories that I've been reading, and we got to get it solved.
The Norwegian Nobel Committee will make their announcement as it relates to this year's Nobel Peace Prize on October the 10th, Friday, October the 10th. Is that date circled on your calendar, Mr. President?
I can't say. I mean, a lot of people say, though, no matter what I did, because, you know, I'm of a certain persuasion, no matter what I do, they won't give it. And I'm not politicking for it. I have a lot of people that are. I know. I mean, I read the same things as you do. But it would be a great honor, certainly. But I would never politic. I'm not doing it for that. I'm doing it because of, I really, number one, I want to save lives. That's why I'm involved so much with Ukraine and Russia. It's saving lives of Russians and Ukrainians. It's not American lives. Now, I would say this, that war could have escalated in something much better. That could have been a world war. I think if we didn't come, Ukraine-Russia would have ended up being a world war. And I stopped that. That stopped. Now, the only question is, when is it going to be settled? And it could be very soon, but when is it going to be? But that would have been a world war. If I didn't come along with a very talented group of people sitting largely right here, but there are others not in the room that are very talented, I think Russia, Ukraine would have had a very, very high degree, I think even probably would have ended up being in a world war.
Your predecessor.
I don't think people talk about that now because they don't see it anymore, but we've brought it down a long way. But that was getting to a point. When I first came in, I said, wow, this thing is really bad. And it could have escalated to a level that you people would have been very unhappy with. Yeah.
Your predecessor, Mr. President, President Ronald Reagan, had a phrase as it relates to dealing with the then Soviet Union and also Mikhail Gorbachev. The phrase was trust but verify. Do you subscribe to that same view as it relates to Mr. Putin and Russia?
Well, I do, relating to everybody. I mean, not just President Putin, but also people and leaders that I deal with. Look, I'm dealing with trade. And some of the worst deals we made, some of the worst trade deals we have, I talk about friend and foe, right? Friend and foe, two interesting words. Some of our worst trade deals were not with the foe, they were with the friends. Our friends were just killing us on trade. Not anymore. Not anymore. We're taking in trillions of dollars, and we're respected. And we're settling, through trade, even a little bit here, less here than on some, but through trade, I got things settled. With India, Pakistan, I think it was trade more than any other reason. That's how I got involved. I said, I don't want to be dealing with countries that are trying to blow up themselves and maybe the world. They're nuclear nations. That was a big one. Getting that one settled, I think you'd agree. That was a big one. And they were going at it. They were shooting airplanes out of the sky. 5 or 6 planes got shot down in their last little skirmish, and then it was going to escalate from there. And that could have gotten to be very, very bad. No, I want to save a lot of lives. I love saving lives. That's what it's about. And when you save lives, you really end up having a peaceful world. Usually that ends up pretty well. I want to thank everybody, but in particular these two great leaders for having the courage to do what they did today, and they're going to go down in the history books. And it's a great honor to be involved. Thank you very much.
This is why Donald J. Trump is the President of the United States, the Commander in Chief, the 45th and now the 47th. This is why he was voted for, to make peace around the world. Scott Bassett.
Scott Bassett. Mr. Secretary, welcome back to Special Report.
Brett, good to see you.
You know, on this day, obviously a lot of focus on what the tariffs will do. And there's been a lot of projection. Obviously, the Fed has not lowered rates yet, thinking that perhaps it is going to trip some inflation. You had the Walmart earnings call where they said we're positioned to manage the cost pressure from tariffs as well as or better than anyone, but even at the reduced levels, the higher tariffs will result in higher prices. You're saying no.
I am saying that thus far we have not seen a transmission into prices, and if we do, it could be a one-time price adjustment. But what we are seeing thus far is the manufacturers are eating it. So the overseas companies that's taken advantage of the U.S. for so long that the U.S. companies are shouldering a lot of the tariffs, and perhaps we'll see some priced on to consumers, but overall inflation has been very nascent. And as a matter of fact, 2 months ago we saw inflation drop for the first time in 4 years.
Why do you think the Fed has chosen its path?
Look, I think that a couple of reasons. But I think a big part of it was somewhat a lack of logic, because on one side they were saying, okay, we need to weight risk management, we need to see if we are going to see inflation from the tariffs. And again, it would not have been inflation. A one-time price adjustment is just like, does your driver's license cost more this year? Then on the other side, they lowered their economic projections for the year. So traditionally, when economic projections go down, interest rates go down. So now the market is pricing in a substantial probability of rate cuts over the coming months. And I would expect that the Fed will be following the market.
As some of these tariffs go into effect, there are some people worried that other countries are going to get together to try to reduce the impact of what the U.S. is trying to do. For example, Reuters has this report that India and Brazil getting together, the two leaders speaking on the phone, saying there's going to be a state visit to India. And it occurred on this day that the conversation among BRICS group of countries tackling U.S. President Donald Trump's levies, the group of major emerging economies, also including China, Russia, and South Africa. In other words, the BRIC countries possibly trying to do something to counter what the U.S. is doing. Is there a worry at all about that?
Well, Brett, I think it's mostly performative. They can call each other, they can meet, but everyone wants access to the U.S. market. And what we've seen thus far was, other than a brief retaliation by China, there's been absolutely no retaliation. We have 18 important trading partners, and we have substantial deals with about 2/3 of them. And with India, President Trump has added a third facet to tariffs. Alexander Hamilton, who was the original tariff man, used tariffs for two reasons. One, to fund the government. Two, to protect U.S. industry. And now President Trump is using tariffs as an instrument of foreign policy, and he is putting secondary tariffs on India for buying Russian oil.
Right. And that is targeting India for an additional 25%. That gets it up to 50%. But what about the folks who are saying, why not do that to China? China arguably buys more Russian oil than India does.
Well, we already have a deal with China. India came to the table early, but they were pretty recalcitrant in the process. So there is no existing trade deal with India. And look, President Trump is keeping all his options open on the sanctions and the tariffs to stop this terrible war in Russia. President Trump is a president of peace. He wants to see this terrible conflict ended. And the China tariffs could be on the table at some point.
How do you characterize the Chinese negotiations? You've been a big part of them in Geneva. There's a lot of facets to them. How would you tell somebody about where the state of the negotiations with China is?
Well, Brett, it's a very unique negotiation because we go back to the negotiations in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, even the early 2000s. Our trading partners, our largest trading partners, were our allies, and then up until the Berlin Wall came down, our largest military threat was from the Soviet Union, which was not a big economy. China is a special case because it is in one country our largest trading problem and the biggest military threat. So it's three-dimensional chess with the Chinese as opposed to other countries, especially our allies, where it's more of a straight-up trade negotiation. And the Chinese are tough. We are tougher, I believe. President Trump has created a lot of leverage. He has a very good personal relationship with President Xi, which helps, but the Chinese don't get special favors, and they are a non-market-based economy, which is, over the long run, incompatible with pure free trade. We need fair trade with them. So this year, we have a 10% baseline tariff, a 20% fentanyl tariff, because they are providing the precursor drugs to fentanyl, and then about 20% tariffs from President Trump's first term. So and then over 50%.
And the TikTok deal and that decision is separate, you're saying?
Yes.
Last thing, do you think you will have sustained 3% economic growth? And how necessary is that for the Trump economic agenda?
Brett, I am very excited about several aspects of the boom that I think we're about to see. We are going to see a CapEx boom. We have trillions of dollars coming into the country. Just yesterday, Tim Cook from Apple was in the Oval. He and Apple had committed $500 million in CapEx. They added another, $500 billion. They added another $100 billion. So, a total of $600 billion. And, we're seeing that from all kinds of companies. Micron Technology, a company with $130 billion market cap, is going to do $200 billion. So we are seeing the exact kind of reshoring that President Trump wanted to see. So from this tariff policy, we expect to take in hundreds of millions of dollars and to help pay down the debt and bring down this mess that we were left with. On the other side, we're seeing substantial reshoring, and I would expect that by the fourth quarter of this year, first, second quarters, that construction is going to begin, substantial job creation and expansion.
Mr. Secretary, we always appreciate you coming on. Thanks a lot.
Hey, Sean
Scott Basson, for sure. Very smart man. All right. Jeanine Pirro has a lot to say concerning the Washington, D.C. attack. Here we go.
Happening today, the suspect accused of killing 2 Israeli embassy staffers who were set to be engaged is due in court after being indicted on federal hate crime charges. And newly elected U.S. Attorney for D.C., Jeanine Pirro, is calling for an end to violence against the Jewish community.
It's a problem, and we're not going to tolerate it. Anti-Semitism has historically been one of the biggest scabs in the world that keeps getting picked on and picked at. So from my perspective, I will go forward with every case with vengeance.
Here to discuss is a witness who was inside the Capitol Jewish Museum during that horrific shooting, Katie Kalischer. Katie, thank you so much for joining us. After seeing what you saw and going through what you did, how are you feeling today, knowing that this suspect is going to be in court beginning to face the music?
I'm feeling like it's going to bring justice and comfort to the victims' families.
Yeah, I can imagine that. And we just called him a suspect, but you say that he admitted to you personally that he killed these two young individuals who were in love, like we said, about to be engaged. If you could recall your interactions with him, tell the story.
Sure. So the video that you're seeing right now was my video that I took. What I remember was hearing some gunshots, and this man, who was like wet, covered in rain, came into the building. We thought that he was kind of an innocent bystander. I didn't have any idea that he was a shooter at the time, and he's walking around the museum, and he looks really scared, so I came over to him, and my friend was like, "Can I get you a glass of water?" And he's like, "You know what, sure, that would be great." So she goes and gets him a glass of water, and I'm asking him, trying to like lighten the mood, "So how do you like this museum?" And he's kind of playing dumb with me, right? He's like, "Oh, what kind of museum is this?" And I told him, it's a Jewish museum. How's your night going? And he's like, "Oh, do you think that's why they did it?" Referring to the gun rounds that we had heard. And I didn't think about it at the time, but I'm like, you know what? I'm sure it's going to be fine. Everything's fine. And that's when the police arrive, and he was waiting to reveal himself because he was very proud of what he had done. And he reaches into his backpack and he pulls out the keffiyeh, which is like a Middle Eastern headscarf, and he says, "I did it. I did it for Gaza. Free Palestine."
Oh my gosh. Well, this happened in May. It is now August. How has this impacted you personally?
For me personally, I am afraid. I think that America is a lot less safe for Jewish people now than I remember it being. Actually, 70% nearly of religion-based hate crimes in the United States are targeted towards Jews. Yet Jews represent just 2.4% of the U.S. population. These numbers are just not adding up. And frankly, I'm scared, and I think that we should all be alarmed.
And the numbers back up exactly what you're saying, because anti-Semitic incidents in 2024, 9,354 incidents across the United States. That's the highest on record. It's an 893% increase over the past decade. Katie, how did we get here, and how do we fix this?
Well, frankly, this is not the first time that I've been witness and victim to anti-Semitic attacks. There's been a number of times when I'm trying to go to LGBT parties or bars, and I'm being asked to take off my necklace, and intimidated and told that I'm not allowed to be there because I'm Jewish, because I'm Zionist. And it's really scary. And the future of this is it's just going to get worse.
Yeah, well, you are brave for speaking out, and you do a very good job of telling your story and reacting to this horrific incident that you saw. We are remembering these victims today. It should have never happened. Katie.
Let's try and say it's going to get better instead of saying it's never going to get better. All right, here we go.
And the Republican
The gerrymander wars are
fled to Illinois or to California. Be reminded that the FBI's assistant has reportedly been enlisted, and their powers are not confined to any singular state's boundaries.
The gerrymander wars are heating up big time. There was no quorum in the Texas State House today to get those 5 new Republican seats. That's because the 50 Texas state Democrats were a no-show, blowing off the deadline to come back in the face of some pretty serious consequences. $500 a day fines, no more direct deposits, and the threat of arrest, with the FBI apparently now on their tails. California Governor Gavin Newsom is about to hold a news conference with some of the Texas holdouts, following the lead of other blue enclaves, Illinois and New York, even though critics point out those states have way worse gerrymandered maps. However, New York Governor Kathy Hochul still insisting Democrats are the ones who play by the rules.
I've never been a hand-wringer on the sidelines. I'm a street fighter from Buffalo, and my blood is boiling over this. And so is the other governors, the other Democratic governors. If we allow the Republicans to get away with what they're attempting to do, this legal insurrection of our U.S. Capitol, then we'll have a generation of redistricted, gerrymandered seats that are skewed against Democrats. And when will we ever get the balance of power, at least in Washington?
But the Democrats are about to bring some nukes to this street fight. One of the Texas runaways, State Representative Jean Wu, is likening the situation to a Cold War.
This is very dangerous, that everything we're doing right now smacks of the Cold War. And what we're talking about is launching nukes at each other. And ultimately, it will be the American people who are hurt. Democrats have no choice but to respond to this in the same way. If you launch missiles at us, we have to launch missiles at you, and it will never end.
5 new ruby red Republican seats would surely sweeten the pot for President Trump, who has now reached 200 days in office. But critics like Stacey Abrams, not fans.
Among the many other vile things that Donald Trump has been called, including tyrant, liar, scam artist, he is also an aspiring dictator, supported and guided like a puppet by a cabal of tech billionaires, Christian nationalists, and xenophobes who all have his ear and understand government a lot better than he does.
Jesse, I'm going to start with you. Those are some pretty big accusations, but I didn't hear those words used when Democrats were gerrymandering their states.
No, of course not. I love that Republicans finally are playing hardball with direct deposit, because now they're stranded without money. And so how are they going to get money? They're going to have to panhandle in Chicago. You could probably make a lot of money doing that. When a fighter is out on his feet, Harold knows, you knock his ass out. This party is delirious, and the Republican Party has to take full advantage at this point. We have to kick the illegals out of the country, we have to kick them out of the census, and we have to gerrymander to the tilt. Why? Because the Democratic Party cannot be trusted to be the opposition party anymore. They have to have a permanent minority. It used to be like, you know what? They wanted to raise taxes. We wanted to cut them. We were isolationists. They were a little bit out there. It's not like that anymore. This party's dangerous. They're cutting kids' things off, okay? They're doing crazy stuff at the border. We can't have them be a normal party. We have to put them out of their misery. Right now, they're using the N-word. Nuclear. And that usually, typically, in nation-state battles, when someone's survival is at stake, you use nukes if your back's up against the wall. And it's existential for the Democratic Party. If you think about it, if we gerrymander and they gerrymander, we have 20-seat advantage. All right? We have a Supreme Court 6-3 majority. And just the way the geography is in the Senate, you're always going to have more advantages for Republicans that way. If you can lock this in with what they're trying to do, the Democratic Party is screwed. And that's what we've been trying to accomplish for the last 3 decades. That's what they've been trying to do to us with triggering an invasion, with trying to kill the president, with trying to censor us and debank us. It's only fair that we fight fire with fire. So if there's mutually assured destruction, they don't have the fissile material to go toe-to-toe with us. We're going to survive. They're not. So I say bring it on.
Well, it sounds like, Kennedy, that's what you're going to get. You've got these states threatening to do the same thing. New York is one of them. But the fact is, a lot of these blue states are already so gerrymandered. There's not a lot of, left to squeeze
I think
out of that orange.
That's where the desperation comes from, because they started this process. And, as an independent voter, I don't like it. I don't like it in Texas. I absolutely hate it in California. California is essentially a monarchy. It is a one-party state, and they've gerrymandered themselves into a corner. They really don't have anywhere else to go. And, I'm surprised that there's any room left in Illinois, because J.B. Pritzker takes up so much of the oxygen with his big personality. And he's laughably hypocritical when he is trying to shield these poor Texas Democrats when his state is gerrymandered to the point where 44% of Michiganders voted for President Trump, yet they only have a 14-3 representation, Democrats to Republicans, in Congress. And there's something about that it doesn't pass the sniff test, but it's also mathematically dishonest. So, and these people who are up in arms about that, they started the arms race. I never liked it. And then Democrats tried to take the high road in Congress, trying to pass legislation that made it through the House, failed in the Senate, that would end the gerrymandering. And the reason they did that is because they had already blown all their powder. There are no more states where they can push Republicans up against the wall. And I guess the only thing we can do is get rid of the two-party system and invite more parties to come in, because right now it is so factionalized, it is absolutely paralyzed.
It does feel like the states are getting deeper red, deeper blue, and that's where we are. And Harold, I know that you're somebody who likes to reach across the aisle on occasion. But as my fellow lawyer on the panel, I got this in my inbox, and it was from the Texas Attorney General, and it said, "I'm suing Robert Francis O'Rourke." And it took me a second to remember that's Beto. So he is using the name. But now we have Democrats saying, like, they're, legal insurrection. They're using the courts. They use the courts every day. Isn't that what we're supposed to do?
Good to be back around the table with everybody. So I don't have any issue with every 10 years, once a census comes in any state, you recognize the political configuration and constitution of the partisan makeup of the House and the Senate and whomever the governor may be. And when I was in Congress, there was always an effort to try to really go all out at the beginning of every decade, because that's when the census numbers would come in, and that's when the legislatures would redraw these districts. So gerrymandering in and of itself, as much I agree with Kennedy, I don't like it, but it's legal. The only thing you cannot do when you gerrymander is take race into account. And if you do, the Supreme Court, all liberal appointees, conservative appointees, it's stated in pretty good law. We've seen laws upturned over the last 3 or 4 years, but this is pretty good law. You can't use race as a consideration. The issue here, and where I differ with my pal Jesse here, is this is midstream. They've called a special session in Texas. I tried to say a few days ago on the show, I just think it's wrong. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do it. We have a set of rules that we've all lived by, which is 10 years. And Jesse, you can make the point, and Kennedy, and I think Shannon as well, about California not having much room, Illinois. I don't like the way some of those states have done, but at least in fairness to New York and California, they have independent commissions that actually go about doing this. But they sometimes get the gerrymandering thing wrong as well. If we allow this to happen, and we should be clear, this is happening because President Trump has urged them to do it. Now, I don't think if you're the president and you have midterms coming next year, that this is a real projection and declaration of strength and confidence if you need to have Texas try to find you 5 more seats. I'm not one that's for tit for tat, but I got to tell you, if Texas does this, California, New York, and Illinois, it's hard for me to say don't do it for the simple reason that I just think it's unfair what they're doing. If we were at the beginning of the decade and Texas said we're going to redraw these districts, we have the power, I'd say, you know what? They're right. This is how the process works. But to do it midstream, I don't think this is a Cold War. The young man obviously didn't know what the Cold War was about. This is a political fight that will have repercussions for a very long time, because anytime a party in the middle of a decade gets a little more power and is able to call a special session and redraw districts, they'll do it. And I just don't think that's good for the overall body politic.
Well, and Greg, there are Republicans who are worried about this too. They're in swing districts and they worry if the blue gets bluer, it's going to, like in New York.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna lose
I say just go all out to the very end. You know what? The thing about Trump, there's no such thing as midstream. Like, he comes in, the beginning, middle, and end is completely thrown out the window. It's like, wait, I'm not going to wait another 5 years. I'm only going to be president until 2028. Maybe. This is what I like about this administration, and also his first one, is he turns the lights on. So we learn stuff that we never really paid attention to before. Like, I knew nothing about gerrymandering. Now I'm sick of hearing about it. But I actually kind of know what it is, and that's great. And that is the beauty. Trump shows us how the Democrats have had a free ride on this grift, because we just didn't pay attention to it. It was like something nerds and wonks are obsessed with. Gerrymandering, it's a stupid word. I hate saying it. But then Trump does it. And it's, oh my God, everybody's screaming. And now we get a master's class on it. Everybody's talking about it. We're learning the ins and outs. But then the curse of that is that for the Dems is that we know they've been doing it all along. Remember, Harold, I don't have to tell you this. The Republican Party was created as a response to the Democrat Party. And all this is, that's all we do, is everything that the Republicans do is a response to something the Democrats done. And I would say that if the Dems could do it, they would do it. And it's good, as Jesse says, that they would. But the beauty of Trump is that they used to make sure we were in the dark on this. And whenever he attacked something, The lights go on. I see a series, Dog the Bounty Hunter, Dems on the Run. After all, they hunted Republicans for the longest time. They went after Trump supporters in the military. They went after parents at school boards, members of churches, censored supporters, as Jesse said, jailed people for wandering the Capitol. Maybe it's time that the hunter become the hunted. The world's most dangerous game.
Can I ask you one question? If they do this in Texas, then by your analysis, is it okay if Democrats do it in New York and Illinois and California?
Then the Republicans can do it.
Yeah.
But I'm saying so.
You see what I'm saying?
This is payback on top of payback on top of payback, which is
It
why our
becomes-
system,
And you know what,
which is
Harold?
why our system is crushed by mass.
You started it.
No, we didn't.
Impeached
No,
him
you
twice.
didn't. No.
You think that just came out of nowhere?
I wasn't there.
Yes, you were, Harold.
Here's how I
You
did
were
it.
here.
Up next,
Oh my goodness. Jerry Mandarin. All right, here we go. Here we go. It's getting spicy. It is getting pretty spicy. Sydney Sweeney is back with another one right here.
Well, if you're tired of her, sorry, because Sydney Sweeney continues making headlines, but this time not for her American Eagle ad. Amid the furor over that Great Jeans campaign, her Baskin-Robbins commercial from a month ago has now resurfaced. Take a look.
Hey, Sydney, your signature scoop is ready.
Thank you.
What? That's so cool. Yeah. It can be.
Summer's looking sweet at Baskin-Robbins.
Well, now the commercial is making the rounds on social media, drawing criticism from both sides of the aisle. One online critic says this is a big fail because, quote, ice cream tanks your testosterone, spikes your risk of diabetes, and wrecks your metabolism. I bet our HHS secretary would agree with that. Another says this ad is going to melt liberal minds, and now they want to eat ice cream. Emily, you know, I kind of feel like if Baskin-Robbins was smart, they might really lean into this. Look, we've seen American Eagle, because they didn't back down, they didn't cave to the woke mob. They've seen their stock prices surge. They got a boost from President Trump talking about them and Sydney Sweeney. What do you think happens? Are they going to stand by their girl, Sydney Sweeney, Baskin-Robbins?
I hope they do. I'm not sick of her whatsoever. I think she's amazing. And look, who doesn't love, and I'm saying this generally speaking for marketing, hot girls eating messy things? That's the whole concept behind the Carl's Jr. ads, right? All the Super Bowl ads. It works. So if I would just offer Baskin-Robbins a little bit more advice, I would say get a little messy. Have it drip all over her. I mean, guaranteed it will spike. I'm headed to Baskin-Robbins myself right after the show.
Well, what's funny, David, is that Sydney Sweeney's brother, it seems like, is taking advantage of this and actually leaning into the good genes stuff. Listen to what he happened to say about this. Oh, just kidding. Sydney Sweeney's brother, Trent, we don't have a sound, I'll read it, who happens to be in the Air Force. He poked fun at the uproar over his sister's American Eagle ad, and he posted on his Instagram story showing his official promotion to Staff Sergeant, congratulations to him, in the Air Force, with a joke that captioned, "It's them good genes," obviously. So, David, liberals, as they say, are already melting down about this. But to Emily's point, she's cute, she's funny. You gotta embrace this stuff. Are they really gonna start melting down on the left over the ice cream?
Okay, first of all, the left just melts down to begin with. Let's go. By the way, if he was eating ice cream and it was messy, I would not be watching, for the record, just so we're clear. However, this is just selling all American, Americana. She's wearing jeans. Jeans are an iconic American product of clothing. By the way, Emily, there's a muscle car, the pony car, in the ad.
I know.
So if you're not a Sydney Sweeney fan, there's this Cobra Stripe Mustang that launched an iconic, muscle car generation in there. This is selling Americana. Go back to Brooke Shields. What's between her and her Jordache? It was that American girl aspirational. You were a guy, you wanted to see a girl in her Jordache jeans. This is just advertising, folks. The left just can't help themselves.
Lisa, I want to give everybody an idea of what Sydney's signature scoop actually consists of. I mean, brace yourself, because I hope RFK Jr. is not listening to this. Rainbow sherbet and a chocolate-dipped waffle cone with rainbow sprinkles, gummy bear minis, and then they're not done. There's a drink. It's sherbet and lemon lime soda that's topped with gummy bears. So this isn't exactly maha.
I mean, I personally like cookies and cream, but that's like the only. I love ice cream. It's the only thing I have in common with Joe Biden. But I will say here, David was talking about how the left is melting down. They don't just melt down; they bully. Right? You can even go back to Congresswoman Maxine Waters saying to get up in the faces of Trump officials. I mean, Laura, you remember this. Tell them they're not welcome anymore. So that's what the left does. They bully. But they've lost their ability to do so when President Trump won the popular vote, because it's no longer popular to hate President Trump. So I think that's what a lot of this angst and anger is about from the left, because they can no longer bully people into submission. And obviously now we know that Sydney Sweeney was a registered Republican dating back to 2024. But even before that, I think the left sort of suspected this. Do you remember the uproar over her mom's 60th birthday party, and people were wearing hats and it said "Make 60 Great Again"? And there was this uproar of, oh, she's a Trump supporter, these are Trump hats. And then, God forbid, there was a guest that also appeared to be wearing a shirt that said "Blue Lives Matter," because apparently, supporting our police officers is a crime to the left. However, I think the positive note about all this was that American Eagle standing behind this ad. So hopefully the left's ability to bully has now been diminished, and they can no longer do so.
Yeah, Alicia, I was reading some of the comments under this, the YouTube ad that they had out there. And I think my favorite one was, "Just for this, I'm going to get some Baskin Robbins. America is back."
Exactly. And I think that's the point for some of this, because the backlash against the backlash is so fun to watch sometimes. But also, I feel like the Wayback Machine is very busy lately with Sydney Sweeney, incredibly busy. Another thing that went viral was her throwing out the first pitch at the Red Sox Blue Jays game in 2022. And people went on there and they were also commenting on her jeans. And it was, for and against. What I'm really curious about is the next time she's going to be on the red carpet, because I'd love to hear how she's doing with all of this and hear where she is in all of this.
And she shoots guns too.
She does shoot guns,
Terran Tactical,
which also upsets them on the left greatly. But we absolutely love to see it.
So a lot of people are talking about American Eagle's stock price. But actually, if you do follow stock prices, in 2007, American Eagle stock price was at the highest in February 2007. It was $31. And in 2012, it was about $21. In 2018, it was about $25, the highest. And then in 2021, it was about $33. But guess what? Today, the stock price is $12.44. So, did it really go up? Or is it just this year's all-time high just for this year? So, in 2006, like I told you, it was at $35. In 2021, it was at $30. In 2022, it was at $35. And now it's at $12. So hopefully Sydney Sweeney's ad and all of this back and forth can take it back to where it's supposed to be in the 30s. Because right now, it's not all-time high. Okay? Look, it is what it is. Jasmine Crockett.
Ben Ferguson, podcast host, joins us now. It was quite an admission. Pro-Palestine means hating peace and worshiping death. Your reaction?
Yeah, you look at this interview, and number one, he justified October the 7th in this terror attack. Not only did he do it in a way that was so morally bankrupt, but it was deeply anti-Semitic and dangerously dehumanizing of anyone that is Jewish. He's calling for terrorism. So if you want to have a reason why this person should be deported, look at his own words in the interview. The second thing is he called the massacre of civilians a desperate moment, justifying it, saying that the Palestinians basically had to do it. They had to reach to this rationalization of terrorism. And so this is something we had no choice but to do. So again, calling for terrorism. And then he says, well, there's slaughtered people that were innocent, but they really weren't innocent because they were Jewish. And so it's justifiable to slaughter children, women, to take them hostage, to rape them, to have them dig their own graves, as we witnessed the video coming out last week. So this is an individual we allowed into the United States of America. And now he's advocating for terrorism against Jewish individuals and justifying this type of terrorism and doing long-form interviews. I asked the question, why should we have him in this country if it is a privilege the way that he is in this country? And those that are calling for him to be deported, I understand it because he's fueling anti-Semitism. He's fueling extremists. He's advocating for terrorism in America as well.
And there is bipartisan outrage, as we noted, that Democrat assemblyman from Brooklyn went on to say the government should continue taking every lawful step necessary to remove this enemy from the United States, Ben. So we'll see what happens with that. I want to also ask you about Jasmine Crockett. She has surged to the forefront of the Trump resistance with aggressive and offensive language. Now that liberal Congresswoman, Ms. Crockett, is contending with a report that she's a terrible boss who terrorizes her own employees. Sources tell the New York Post that Crockett screams at her staff, is never in the office, freaks out over the most random things, is focused almost exclusively on being an influencer, and has overall a toxic staff environment. On one occasion, she even reduced an aide to tears. One source summed it up as, quote, all diva, no wow. That's reportedly behind closed doors. This is in public.
Listen, Donald Trump is a piece of okay, we know that. Kind of like, the orange orangutan, the Timu Hitler. They understand that we have a Timu Hitler in the White House right now that thinks that he is going to become the dictator of the United States. We are going to be in your face. We are going to be on your We will not allow a bully to punch us in our face. We are not only going to punch you back, but we are going to knock you out.
Well, Ben, if that's what she's displaying publicly, my goodness, what is happening behind closed doors?
Yeah, look, the Democratic Party's got a problem because they've basically taken a bunch of social media influencers that are really loud and know how to get like TikTok views and said, be a congressperson. We'll bring you up here. And they don't legislate. She's not representing the people of her district. She's never there and working with them. And again, all of these accusations are coming from her staff. People that worked for her. And they say she's never in the office. She's always hanging out in her apartment. She only wants to be on TV. She only wants to be viral. She only wants to call the president a POS. And this is, again, the Democratic Party. Look, I think they've got a big problem because now you got Marxists, socialists, and communists and TikTokers like her who are out there saying, I'm a congresswoman, even though I don't represent or do anything for my constituents. It's serious people should be in Washington. You should be working for the people, not trying to get views on clickbait like she does every day. So good luck to the Democratic Party. You've created this, you've emboldened it, and now this is what you've got. And you wonder why her approval rating's at like 9%.
And now her own are turning on her. Ben Ferguson joining us on that. Thank you so much, Ben.
Her own staff.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for tuning in to the live show. We're going to be back. All right. I just wanted to come here real fast, but I will be back. Instead of looking for perfection, seek for consistency. Never give up on yourself. Never give up on your dreams. Never give up on God. Believe in yourself. Believe in your dreams and believe in Almighty God. Yes. Thank you for being here. We're going to be back. God is the greatest. America is the greatest nation on the face of the earth. Shout out to our esteemed members, Dr. Luke, the GOAT, Ellie, Ringmaster, Ingram, Sandra, CRXR. Yes, and our moderator right here, Corey B, Zyros Garden. God bless y'all. Thank you for being here. Yes, y'all. All right, we're gonna be back. See you soon. Shout out to law enforcement officers. Shout out to Ice Baby. Shout out to the military personnel. Shout out to the veterans. Without you guys, there would be no homeland. So thank you so much. All right. It is your boy Genesis. This is the Genesis Show, and we are going to be right back.